Yes, and as you've rightly said, if anything, the head's turned too close to your hands and your thumb, and you want to just hold it away slightly. So we can just hold it away, and we can use the wheels. This still allows us to get to the buttons. Okay, so for me, that's a natural position for me to do the colonoscopy. But there is a gap here. So the problem with the gap is for you guys, you look at the screen, and it gets really tense. And as you get tense, everything contracts.
And bring it up.
And this comes up, and guess what happens? This falls down.
Back to there.
Then you can't get to this. Then at the time that you need the most tip control, you've got the least tip control because you have to take your hand off to work the wheels. And your shoulder's getting tight. So when it's really difficult, it's really important you concentrate on keeping this horizontal, keeping nice and relaxed, allowing your thumb to manipulate the wheels, and allowing your right hand to control the shaft. Now, for me, this angle is really important. Now, I happen to have an anti-version of the hips and shoulders, so when I stand and I'm going to carry something for a long time, my hands naturally come in like this. For some people, they will be in a neutral position, and for some people, it will be open. You have to find out what's comfortable for you so it doesn't strain your shoulder joint. So if I say you're going to carry something for a long period of time, that's the position you need to be holding this instrument. You're going to support it here to allow your wheel to use the control knobs. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what have you learned, John?
Okay, so we've talked about why it's important to be on the right side of the umbilicus instead of the left side, and why it's important not to have any loops in the umbilicus in terms of allowing more movement of the scope. We talked about why this is a bad way to handle it, because you have poor access to the wheels and it's difficult to push it up. So it's better to balance it flat there because your thumb's in the middle, allowing good motions both ways. And if you have it in the middle, it balances quite nicely.
So less strain on your shoulders and your wrists.
So John and I are just going to talk between us for a couple of a minute or two, but while we're doing that, if anybody has any questions, please put up your hand and we'll unmute you for the remote delegates. If you can put the question through Slido, perhaps David could pick it up. So while you're thinking of the questions, I'd just like to sort of discuss with John what the key points here were. And for me, the key points were around ergonomics and control. And what I noticed particularly, firstly, is that it's terribly important to be standing on the right side of the umbilicus. The umbilicus needs to be on your left, and the umbilicus needs to be as free as possible. If you have a loop in the umbilicus, then it constrains the movement of your left hand. And so it's very important where the umbilicus is. Now, if you don't mind, John, I'd just like to relate my experience here. And that is that I used to hold the scope like this. I can't remember where the umbilicus was, but I was forever bringing my hand up to the controls. And every time I brought my hand up to the controls, I took my right hand off the scope and I lost control of the scope. And this was happening quite late in my colonoscopy career. And to undo that was very difficult. It took me about 6 months to get my left hand right. So I didn't have to take my right hand off the scope more or less ever.